In the Gambia, there has been some controversy in recent weeks over what happened to hundreds of millions of dollars worth of assets acquired by former President Yahya Jammeh during his 22-year stint in charge of the country. Jammeh was ousted from power in January 2017 by an ECOWAS military force comprising troops from neighboring Senegal. The total value of properties, vehicles, animals and other items in question is more than $360 million, and only a fraction of that has actually been recouped by the government. An investigative report published by local newspaper The Republic last month alleged that some of these assets had been sold at knockdown prices to individuals with close links to members of the current government. This has led to anger and street protests, forcing President Adama Barrow, who replaced Jammeh in 2017, to say that he will set up a commission to investigate. The Gambian journalist Omar Wali picked up the story, starting with a reminder of what happened to Jammeh after he left the Gambia following a tense few months back in 2017.
He fled to Equatorial Guinea. Along the way, he could not take along all the assets he accumulated. This was what he did. A cargo plane was brought in, scores of luxurious cars were put in, and they were taken to Equatorial Guinea. However, a huge chunk of assets, including non-movables, such as 11,000 herds of cattle, reptiles, amphibians, and other animals were left behind. Those assets were seized and they were frozen. So the government set up a commission of inquiry to look into his financial dealings. So, for example, ministers, military officers, especially the Presidential Guard Brigade, will send text message to the governor of the central bank requesting money on Jammeh's behalf. And the governor of the central bank will send in tens of thousands of dollars. At one point, it was $1.5 million. So the problem was due process wasn't followed. Text messages will be sent to the governor, either by the head of the Presidential Guard Brigade or the Secretary General or the head of the civil service or a minister, and the monies will be brought to State House for Jammeh.
According to the investigation, he had amassed a fortune worth $362 million during his time in power. So of that money, how much of it has been recovered?
$33.7 million was recovered. So this money includes the sales of 35 real estate, 5 aircrafts, 458 vehicles, 197 tractors, shares in companies, and luxury items. So there's a shortfall of $340 million.
So what do people think happened to it?
Well, the blame goes squarely to the president because he's been accused of setting up a commission of inquiry, but he did not follow the due process to make sure these assets were put in public tenders or public to be informed. And majority of Ghanaians were not even aware that most of these assets were sold out.
So the state was able to recoup some losses, but almost like a drop in the ocean of the actual value of the assets that Jammeh had amassed. What did the state do with what it did take? The 35 properties, et cetera, et cetera. What happened to those assets?
They made profit of $33.7 million out of this 362. So government still did not recuperate $340 million, despite the selling of real estate, 5 aircrafts, 458 vehicles, 198 tractors, and so on.
And who were those things sold to?
That's where the question is now. Because whilst the commission was ongoing, those tractors and vehicles were sold out, but they didn't know who bought them. 3 regions in the country, West Coast and KM, and even the North Bank, it was initially said the governors of those regions were the one who bought the assets. But 3 of them came out and said they did not receive or bought any from the commission. So the government is now being asked to go back and come and tell Gambians who bought those assets, at what price, when, and what happened to those proceeds.
So Gambians are so upset about this that President Adama Barrow actually had to address the nation in a televised address. Let's hear what he had to say about this.
Let me reassure every Gambian that the assets recovered belong to the people. My administration will not tolerate negligence or any wrongdoing linked to safeguarding our nation's resources. We are committed to full transparency in whatever we undertake on behalf of the people.
That's President Adama Barrow. Are people convinced that this will be done with full transparency and that they will get answers?
I don't think so. And I don't think the president's speech did quell the angers of many people. This has been a cliche for the president. He will come out whenever issues like this happen. He will address the nation, but he doesn't take strong stance when it comes to fighting corruption. Here is a man who said audit reports are opinions. And he also said that corruption is as old as mankind. So Gambians took his speech with a pinch of salt, but they don't think anything concrete will come out as far as fighting corruption is concerned.
Why do you think that Adama Barrow has not been able to really get a grip on this? Because so many people had so much hope in him when he came in after Yahya Jammeh left. And there's a constant sense of disappointment around how he's actually dealing with matters.
Barrow was very sincere to Gambians when he was chosen to lead the coalition. He told Gambians that he cannot do the job from the word go. He said he was going to rely on intellectuals and technocrats to run the country. So you can see there is a gap there. So he set up the commission, but he was not getting the daily briefing that's supposed to take place. So Barrow himself is not on top of this as far as corruption governance is concerned.
Why do you think people were so angry with this? I mean, they went out on protests. Some of them were arrested, detained, and released. But they are genuinely quite angry.
I think the problem is Barrow's approach towards fighting corruption. These young guys, they call themselves Gandans against looted assets. So they wrote to the police applying for a permit. In the Gambian constitution, you can't protest if you're not issued a permit. So the permit was rejected. So they decided to go out and they were arrested. When they were arrested, another group of young guys came out. So those people also said, unless and until they release these young people, they won't go home.
Free our youth, free the list, free our youth, free the list, free our youth, free the list.
The list is those who bought Jammeh's asset. As we speak now, the government has asked the Justice Ministry to go and find out what happened to all the assets. So in the coming days and months, hopefully, they will produce another list, which will have a comprehensive report of those who bought the assets.
Have we heard anything from Yahya Jammeh himself? I'm just wondering how much support do you think he has still in the Gambia?
Jammeh will just make a phone call to his supporters and said, can you guys go to my village? Tens of thousands will gather there for just 10 or 20 minutes phone call. And this is after nearly 8 years out of office, Barrow still want to have a coalition with him. So he has loyal supporters. And although so many things happened under his regime, but here is a man who also brought somewhat infrastructural development. So he has a huge impact in changing the lives of many Gambians, be it in students, in the military, and when it comes to infrastructure of the country. So he still has a strong support among Gambians.
That's a friend of Focus on Africa, Omar Wali.